The Geneva Convention Center buzzed with an energy that transcended its earthly confines. For the first time in galactic history, the Interspecies Xenobiology Summit was being held on a planet's surface rather than a sterile space station. The venue choice had been controversial. Many delegates considered planetary meetings primitive, but Earth's neutral status and central location made it practical. Dr. Kelvara of the crystalline Xanthari adjusted her translation matrix as she prepared her presentation. Her 4 eyes gleamed with academic excitement as she addressed the assembled crowd of over 200 beings from 47 different species. The conference hall's adaptive atmosphere systems worked overtime to accommodate everyone from the methane-breathing volcarons to the photosynthetic xylithae. Colleagues, Kelvara began, her voice rippling through harmonic frequencies that the universal translators converted into each species' understanding. Today, we examine the ultimate cautionary tale in our ongoing cataloging of uninhabitable worlds. Planet designation Terra 3, locally known as Earth. A collective shudder ran through the assembly. Even the slug-like Mallory recoiled into their protective shells. Dr. Vextar, the insectoid representative from the hive worlds, clicked his mandibles nervously. Surely we're not discussing actual colonization scenarios for such a nightmare realm? Kelvara's presentation screen flickered to life, displaying atmospheric readings that made several delegates gasp. Observe, 21% diatomic oxygen. Gas so reactive, literally burns through organic tissue. This corrosive atmosphere has prevented any known civilization from establishing even temporary research stations. The Aquatic Federation representative, Commander Tide Singer, bubbled in distress. The toxicity levels alone would kill most of our species within moments of exposure. It gets worse, Kelvara continued, advancing to the next slide showing predator classifications. The planet hosts pack-hunting species with intelligence quotients approaching Class C sapience. These wolves coordinate attacks using complex communication and tactical planning that rivals some star-faring civilizations. In the back corner of the auditorium, Dr. James Crawford looked up from his coffee, a beverage that would have been classified as a mild poison by galactic standards, and frowned slightly. The 42-year-old xenarchaeologist had been quietly taking notes, assuming they were discussing some newly discovered world in the Outer Rim territories. The presentation continued with increasingly horrifying details. Massive creatures capable of trampling heavy equipment, flying predators with wingspans exceeding most shuttlecraft, and microscopic organisms that could dissolve organic matter from within. The assembled scientists documented everything with the detached fascination of academics studying theoretical impossibilities. The electromagnetic predators are perhaps most terrifying, Kelvara explained, showing sonar readings of massive aquatic hunters. These sharks can detect bioelectric fields from vast distances and have remained essentially unchanged for millions of years, perfect killing machines. Crawford's frown deepened. Those readings looked remarkably similar to the great whites he'd swum with during his marine biology phase. But surely they couldn't be talking about Earth. The translation software must be GLITCHING. As Kelvara concluded her presentation with apocalyptic weather patterns and plant life that actively attempted to consume visitors, the conference hall fell into stunned silence. It was Dr. Yith of the Harmony Collective who finally spoke, his pacifist species' natural calm shaken. This world. It's as if evolution itself had been weaponized. No intelligent life could possibly emerge from such chaos. Crawford quietly raised his hand. The entire auditorium turned to focus on the lone human representative. Crawford suddenly felt very aware that he was the only member of his species present, a fact that had seemed unremarkable until this moment. The universal translator faithfully converted his words as he stood. "Excuse me, Dr. Kelvara, but I think there might be some confusion about which planet you're discussing. Are you talking about Earth?" The silence that followed was so complete that the atmospheric recycling systems seemed thunderous. Calvara's crystalline structure actually vibrated with what humans would recognize as nervous energy. Aye, that is the local designation, yes, she managed. But surely you understand this is a theoretical exercise in planetary classification. No sapient species could evolve under such conditions. Crawford looked around the room at 200. Alien faces displaying varying degrees of confusion and dawning horror. Actually, humans evolved on Earth. I was born there. About 8 billion of us live there currently. The Mallory delegate immediately sealed himself completely in his shell. 3 Silithy representatives began emitting distress pheromones that triggered the hall's air filtration alarms. Commander Tidesinger's aquatic suit actually bubbled over with agitation. Dr. Vextar's compound eyes focused on Crawford with predatory intensity. Impossible. You're claiming to be a native of the most hostile world in our database? Well, Crawford said, settling back into his chair with a slight smile. Hostile is relative. The oxygen thing, for instance, we actually need it to live. Can't survive more than a few minutes without it. And those pack hunters you mentioned, we call them dogs. Most human families keep them as companions for children. The horror in the room was palpable. Dr. Yith actually stood up, his normally serene demeanor cracking. You're saying these dogs live in proximity to your offspring? Oh, sure. Kids love them. We've bred them into hundreds of varieties, some for hunting, some for protection, some just because they're cute. Crawford pulled out his phone, showing pictures of his sister's golden retriever playing with her toddler. This is Max. He's great with kids. Calvara's presentation screen flickered as her nervous energy interfered with the electronics. The atmospheric corrosion. How do you survive the oxygen burn? We breathe it, Crawford explained patiently. Our cells use it for energy production. The stuff you're probably thinking of as safe atmosphere nitrogen, carbon dioxide, that would actually kill us pretty quickly. The academic discussion was rapidly becoming a crisis of understanding. Dr. Morden of the Silicon Collective, whose species evolved in crystal caves, spoke in grinding tones that the translator rendered as barely controlled panic. What about the electromagnetic predators? The ocean hunters? Crawford brightened. Oh, sharks. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I've been cage diving with great whites. Some people surf in waters where they hunt adds to the excitement. There are actually guided tours where you can swim with them. Swim with them? Commander Tidesinger's translator struggled with the concept. For recreation, Crawford confirmed. Humans do a lot of things for fun that other species might consider survival challenges. We climb mountains, jump out of aircraft, race vehicles at dangerous speeds. Some people even do extreme sports in places with active volcanoes. The conference was no longer about academic xenobiology. The assembled representatives of 47 civilizations were grappling with the terrifying realization that they had invited an apex predator to discuss planetary dangers, and he had been sitting among them for 3 days, drinking coffee and taking notes. It was Dr. Calvara who asked the question that chilled every being in the room. If Earth produced humans, what else might it have created that we haven't discovered yet? Asterisk, the conference hall's emergency systems activated with a cascade of alarms. That sent several species into immediate panic responses. Red warning lights bathed the auditorium as the automated security AI began its cold mechanical assessment. Threat level reassessment in progress, the station's voice announced in 47 languages simultaneously. Detecting presence of Class X predator species. Initiating containment protocols. Heavy blast doors slammed shut, sealing the conference hall. Emergency barriers rose from the floor, creating a perimeter around Crawford, who sat calmly finishing his coffee, while 200 of the galaxies' most brilliant minds pressed themselves against the walls in terror. Oh, come on, Crawford muttered, standing slowly to avoid triggering additional defensive measures. This is a bit of an overreaction. The AI continued its dispassionate analysis. Subject exhibits physiological markers consistent with persistence hunter adaptation. Binocular vision, optimized for tracking prey. Bipedal locomotion, suitable for endurance pursuit. Omnivorous dentition, including cutting and tearing implements. Dr. Vextar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. The AI is right. Look at his eyes forward-facing, designed for judging distances to prey. And those teeth. These are just normal human teeth, Crawford protested, then realized that opening his mouth to speak was causing several delegates to hyperventilate. Look, I understand this is concerning, but I'm a xenorchaeologist. I study ancient civilizations. I'm probably the least threatening person you could meet. Xenorchaeologist, Dr. Kelvara repeated with dawning horror. You study ... dead civilizations? The implication hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Commander Tidesinger's aquatic suit began cycling emergency filtration. How many civilizations? Has your species ... studied? Before Crawford could answer, new alarms joined the cacophony. The main conference room's external monitors showed armed figures moving through the facility's outer corridors. The Raider Syndicate had chosen this moment to strike, having tracked the concentration of valuable alien technology to what they assumed would be an easy target. External threats detected, the AI announced. Security forces compromised. Estimated arrival of hostile forces. 4 minutes. The irony was not lost on anyone present. The galaxy's leading experts on dangerous worlds were about to be attacked by simple pirates while trapped in a room with what they now realized was the most dangerous thing in the known universe. Dr. Yith of the Harmony Collective spoke with the calm that came from accepting inevitable doom. Our species abandoned violence. Millennia ago, we have no defense against armed primitives. Same here, Dr. Mordon ground out. The Silicon Collective hasn't fought a war in 3,000 years. Our security relies on automation and treaties. Crawford looked around the room at the assembled being scientists, philosophers, and explorers who had reached the stars through intelligence and cooperation, not conquest. They had built a civilization that had forgotten how to fight, and now faced creatures who had never learned to stop. How many raiders? He asked, moving toward the blast door controls. Crawford, no. Kelvara's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. The containment is for our protection. 17 hostiles identified, the AI reported, armed with kinetic weapons and energy disruptors. Standard raider configuration. Crawford examined the door controls, his mind already shifting into patterns that his peaceful colleagues couldn't recognize. 17 isn't too bad. Are there any maintenance shafts or service corridors that connect to this section? The question chilled every delegate to their respective core temperatures. Dr. Vextar's compound. Eyes tracked Crawford's movements with the focused attention of prey watching a predator plan an attack. You're not thinking of going out there, Dr. Yith said, his pacifist nature struggling to comprehend the concept. Crawford turned back to the assembled representatives with a smile that, for the first time, they recognized as something that belonged on a Deathworld predator. Sometimes, he said quietly, the best defense is a good offense. Asterisk the maintenance shaft that Crawford squeezed through would have been impossible for most species present at the conference. His human flexibility and compact bone structure evolutionary advantages for pursuing prey through varied terrain allowed him to navigate the narrow passages that serviced the convention center's environmental systems. Through the shaft's acoustic properties, he could hear the raiders' communications. Standard syndicate protocol, fast, brutal, focused on technological plunder. They expected no resistance from a gathering of scientists and academics. Their biggest concern was efficiently cataloging alien tech before station security could respond. Crawford's mind processed the tactical situation with an efficiency that would have horrified his colleagues. 17 raiders, armed but overconfident. They had divided into 3 groups, 6 securing the main entrances, 5 herding delegates, 6 stripping valuable equipment. Basic predator pack behavior. Ironically, he emerged in the facilities. Main corridor through a ventilation grate, moving with the silence that had once allowed his ancestors to approach prey undetected. The first raider group never saw him coming. In the conference hall, the delegates watched their external monitors in fascination and growing terror. Crawford moved through the raiders like a force of nature, using improvised weapons and environmental advantages with a creativity that spoke to millions of years of evolutionary refinement. How is he doing that? Dr. Mordoon's silicon structure vibrated with what might have been awe. He's using the ceiling fixtures as weapons. Persistence hunter adaptation, Dr. Vextar observed with clinical detachment that masked his horror. They're designed to use any available resource to eliminate prey. Tools, environment, even their own bodies become weapons. On the screen, Crawford had apparently convinced 2 raiders to attack each other through some form of psychological manipulation. Dr. Kelvara's crystalline form pulsed rapidly. He's not just using physical superiority, he's outthinking them. Deathworld. Intelligence, Commander Tidesinger bubbled softly. They have to be smart enough to survive in that environment, but also retain all the predatory instincts. It's the worst possible combination. The tactical situation shifted as the raiders realized they were being hunted. Their communications became frantic, their formations desperate. What had started as a routine raid had become a survival scenario against something they couldn't understand or predict. Crawford's voice came through the facility's communication system. Dr. Kelvara, can you override the containment protocols? I need to get the remaining raiders consolidated into a smaller area. You want us to help you trap them? Dr. Yith asked, his pacifist nature recoiling from the concept. It'll be cleaner this way. Less damage to the facility, lower chance of anyone getting hurt. The horrifying thing was how reasonable he sounded. Crawford wasn't enjoying the violence. He was simply solving a problem with the tools evolution had given him. Dr. Kelvara found herself activating the override before she fully realized what she was doing. Environmental controls shifted throughout the facility. Blast doors sealed specific corridors while others opened, creating a path that funneled the remaining raiders toward the main cargo bay. Crawford's tactical thinking was so far beyond their academic experience that they found themselves complicit in strategies they couldn't fully comprehend. This is how they conquered a Deathworld, Dr. Mordoon observed with growing dread. Not through superior technology or peaceful cooperation. Through this. The external monitors showed the final confrontation. 7 remaining raiders trapped in the cargo bay with nowhere to run, facing a single human who had already eliminated 10 of their companions using nothing but environmental resources and predatory instinct. He's not even breathing hard, Commander Tidesinger noted with aquatic horror. Crawford's voice echoed through the facility one final time. Raiders have been neutralized. You can deactivate the containment protocols now. And maybe we should talk about rescheduling the rest of the conference. The silence that followed was broken only by the slow realization that they had just witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. A single individual from a primitive species had defeated a trained raider crew through pure evolutionary advantage. They had invited a Deathworld predator to their conference, and he had just proven exactly what that meant. Asterisk. The aftermath of the raid left the Geneva Convention Center in an eerie calm that none of the delegates recognized. Emergency services from the local human government arrived with an efficiency that further unnerved the alien representatives apparently. Dealing with violence was so routine for Earth's inhabitants that they had entire systems dedicated to its cleanup. Crawford sat in the facility's medical bay, submitting to examinations by both human paramedics and several xenobiologists who wanted to understand how he had emerged essentially uninjured from a confrontation that should have been lethal. The human medical team treated his minor cuts and bruises with the casual competence of people accustomed to such injuries. The alien observers documented everything with the fascinated horror of scientists studying an impossible phenomenon. Elevated heart rate and adrenal levels consistent with moderate physical exertion, Dr. Kelvara reported to the reassembled conference. Not with life or death combat against superior numbers. Because for him, it wasn't life or death combat. Dr. Vextar observed, his compound eyes tracking Crawford's movements with newfound understanding. It was environmental adaptation. Like us breathing processed air or consuming nutrients' basic survival functions. The conference had reconvened in a smaller, more secure chamber, but the dynamic had fundamentally shifted. Crawford was no longer a fellow academic sitting among equals. He was a specimen under observation by creatures trying to understand their own mortality. Dr. Yith of the Harmony Collective spoke the question that haunted them all. If humans are this capable as individuals, what does that mean for galactic civilization? Crawford looked up from his tablet, where he had been reviewing the preliminary cultural exchange protocols. I think you're overreacting. Most humans are teachers, doctors, engineers, artists. We've spent the last few centuries trying to move beyond violence. What happened today was unusual. But the capability remains, Commander Tidesinger observed. Your species retains predatory adaptations that our civilizations have evolved beyond. You are living weapons that choose restraint. Which is the most terrifying thing of all, Dr. Mordaunt added. Predictable hostility can be defended against. Controlled lethality. Cannot. The real revelation came when Earth's preliminary planetary assessment was updated in real time. The conference delegates watched in growing horror as Crawford casually corrected their data with personal experience that redefined their understanding of extreme survival conditions. Actually, that's not a venomous plant, Crawford noted, reviewing Kelvara's botanical survey. That's poison ivy. Kids learn to avoid it by age 5. And that's not an electromagnetic predator. That's a dogfish. They're about the size of your thumb. Each correction revealed how thoroughly the galaxy's finest minds had misunderstood not just Earth, but the fundamental nature of survival itself. What they classified as ultimate environmental hazards, humans considered minor inconveniences. What they feared as apex predators, humans kept as pets or food sources. The conference's final session addressed the question that would reshape galactic politics. If Earth could produce humans, what else might emerge from deathworlds that civilized species had written off as uninhabitable? We've spent millennia cataloging worlds as too dangerous for life, Dr. Kelvara concluded. But we defined life by our own limitations. We may have overlooked entire categories of potential species because we couldn't conceive of intelligence that thrived in conditions we found lethal. Crawford closed his tablet and looked around the room at the assembled representatives of 47 civilizations. There's something else you should probably know. Earth isn't actually considered a particularly dangerous planet by human standards. We've identified several hundred worlds in this galaxy alone that we'd classify as significantly more challenging. The silence that followed was absolute. More challenging? Dr. Yith managed. Higher gravity, more active geology, more aggressive. Biochemistry. Earth is actually pretty comfortable once you adapt to it. We chose it for this conference because it was neutral and relatively safe for most species. Commander Tidesinger's aquatic suit bubbled with what might have been hysterical laughter. Safe? You consider a Deathworld safe? Like I said, Crawford replied with a smile that no longer seemed merely friendly. It's all about perspective. The Galactic Xenobiology Summit officially concluded 3 days early, with most delegates requesting immediate transport off-world. The final conference report, classified at the highest levels of galactic security, contained a single chilling recommendation: immediate reassessment of all planetary classifications required. Previous assumptions about habitable worlds and potential sapient life rendered obsolete. Humanity represents proof that intelligence can evolve under conditions previously considered incompatible with complex life. The implications for both planetary exploration and species contact protocols are unprecedented. The galaxy would never look at Deathworlds the same way again. More importantly, it would never look at humans the same way again. The walking nightmare had introduced itself to the stars, and the stars had learned to be afraid. Asterisk.